immerse yourself into the world of Creepy Man. He's waiting for you.
I never thought I'd be the type to believe in the supernatural. Ghosts, monsters, all that. It was just nonsense to me. I mean, sure, I liked a good scary movie or a campfire tale like anyone else, but deep down, I always figured it was just people letting their imaginations get the best of them. But then something happened. Something I still can't explain to this day. And believe me, I've tried. My name's Jake, and what I'm about to tell you isn't a story I share lightly. It's something I've kept to myself for years, mostly because it's hard to talk about, but also because, well, who would believe me? I'll never forget that camping trip. It was supposed to be just me, my dad, and our dog Kodak. An adventure we'd planned for years but never got around to. I was 17, eager to get away from everything for a while. My dad thought this trip would be good for us, a chance to bond before I went off to college next year. We drove out to the middle of nowhere, a dense, isolated forest my dad had found online. It was supposed to be peaceful, tranquil, but looking back, I realize how wrong we were. We arrived in the early evening, the sun dipping low behind the trees, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Kodak, our golden retriever, was restless, more so than usual. His tail wagged, but his ears were pricked, like he was listening to something we couldn't hear. I brushed it off, thinking it was just excitement. My dad set up the tent while I gathered firewood, and soon we had a cozy fire crackling. The world around us was quiet, too quiet. As the night wore on, I started noticing how unnaturally still everything seemed. No wind, no rustling leaves, no sounds of birds or animals. Kodak sat beside me, his body tense, ears perked and eyes fixed on the darkening woods. My dad joked that it was just the deep forest, that we weren't used to the quiet. But this was more than quiet. It was like the forest was holding its breath. It was around midnight when I first heard it. Footsteps, light but deliberate, circling our campsite. I thought it was an animal at first, maybe a deer or a raccoon. But then I realized the sound was too steady, too human. I whispered to my dad, but he waved it off, saying it was probably just a curious animal. But I knew something was wrong. Kodak was growling low in his throat, his fur bristling. I could feel the dread starting to creep in. The footsteps continued, pacing around the tent, stopping and starting in a way that sent chills down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that whoever, or whatever it was, wasn't just wandering through. It was watching us. My dad zipped up the tent and told me to get some sleep, but I couldn't. Kodak lay curled beside me, his body pressed against mine, shaking slightly. We both stayed alert, waiting for something to happen. I must have drifted off at some point because the next thing I remember is waking up in a cold sweat. The fire had died down, and the forest was pitch black. I reached over to wake my dad, but his sleeping bag was empty. He was gone. I called his name, quietly at first, then louder. No answer. The footsteps outside had stopped, but there was something far worse, an overwhelming silence that pressed in from all sides. I unzipped the tent, crawled out, my heart pounding. Kodak was right beside me, growling softly, his eyes fixed on the tree line. My dad was nowhere to be seen. I scanned the campsite, looking for any sign of him, but there was nothing. Just the faint glow of the embers and the oppressive blackness of the woods. That's when I saw her, a pale, ghostly figure, standing just beyond the reach of the dying fire's light. Her long, dark hair flowed unnaturally, and she wore a tattered white dress that seemed to flutter despite the stillness around her. She stood there motionless, but I could feel her gaze burning into me. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Kodak's growls grew louder, but he didn't move from my side. The ghostly figure stood there motionless, and then she started to slowly, almost deliberately, step toward us. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. I backed up, stumbling over my own feet, but Kodak lunged forward, barking furiously. I grabbed his collar, trying to pull him back, but he wouldn't budge. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen in place, watching as she approached. It felt like hours, but it could have been only seconds. I was shaking so badly that I nearly fell. The figure stopped just a few feet away, and I could finally make out her shape. Her eyes were hollow, her face twisted in a way that was both sorrowful and terrifying. Her long, bony arms reached out toward me, fingers curled unnaturally as if she wanted to grab me. I bolted. I didn't even think. I just ran, pulling Kodak with me as we sprinted through the trees. I didn't know where I was going, just away from that thing. I could hear her behind me, her footsteps soft but unnerving, matching mine. Every time I looked back, she was closer, moving in ways no living thing should be able to move. I don't remember how long I ran. It felt like forever, the woods stretching on endlessly. I was exhausted, barely able to keep going, but the terror kept me moving. Kodak was still with me, his breathing heavy but steady. We eventually reached a small clearing, and I collapsed to my knees, gasping for air. The ghostly figure was gone. For the moment, I thought we were safe. But that's when I heard it again. The footsteps, slow and deliberate, circling the clearing. There was no escaping her. No matter how far I ran, she would follow. I pulled Kodak close, trying to calm his frantic panting. I didn't know what to do. My dad was still missing, and there was no sign of him anywhere. The ghost had stopped moving again, standing just at the edge of the clearing, watching us. It didn't make a sound, but I could feel her presence, her cold, unrelenting hunger. I don't remember much after that. I must have passed out from exhaustion, because the next thing I knew, it was morning. The sun had risen, casting long beams of light through the trees. Kodak was still by my side, but my dad, he was gone. No tracks, no sign of a struggle. Nothing. It was like he had simply vanished. I searched the forest for hours, but there was no trace of him. The police never found anything either. It's been years since that night, and I've never gone back to those woods. I can't. The thought of it makes my skin crawl. I don't know what I saw, or what happened to my dad, but I know one thing for sure. Something was out there that night. Something evil. And it took him. I still hear the footsteps sometimes, in my dreams, and every time I do, I wake up in a cold sweat, Kodak lying beside me, growling into the darkness. And that's the story of the night everything changed for me. Even now, I still don't know what really happened in those woods, but one thing's for sure. I'll never forget it. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced something strange? Maybe a story you've heard from a friend or a family member? I'd love to share your encounters here on the channel. So, if you've got a story, real or not, send it in. Who knows, maybe your experience will be featured in the next video. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. And make sure to click that bell icon so you never miss out on the next spine-chilling tale. Your support means the world to us, and it's what keeps us going. So, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay curious, and bye for now.